Hey, beautiful people, welcome to this month's energy update and tarot insight with myself, Shane, brought to you by www.shanegad.com. So here we are, May into June. Many of the themes moving through, I've been listening, I've been feeling into that for the last week or so, just jotting down notes as I've been feeling that energy move. What is it showing us? Where is it taking us? What is it illuminating for us? And one of the words that come through, which feels like a absolute whisper from the divine, is it's all imbalance balancing itself out. It's all imbalance balancing itself out, which kind of feels that there could be this continued grittiness, messy. As Spirit always say, healing is a fucking messy business. So you may be feeling a continuation of that. At the heart of it, everything feeling completely up in the air, because there is this deep feeling of a powerful surge moving through the collective that is absolutely pulling that imbalance into balance. Okay, but it does feel like there could be a flare, and that's interesting because I'm seeing people have a feeling of like a flare up within their own emotions, within their own body. I'm seeing people have outbreaks of skin conditions, and that is that flare up from deep inside, all that kind of emotion and energy, all that kind of, maybe all of what is being healed, all of what is in turmoil, just absolutely breaking out, right? Breaking out through the surface into the everyday world. And we are seeing that. We're seeing a lot of unconscious projection out into the world. So when we look out into the world, we're seeing a lot of conflict, a lot of rifts, a lot of arguments, a lot of disputes. At a wider level and a larger level, we're seeing a lot of war, rifts and conflicts. So you may be feeling conflicts within your friendships, relationships. You may be feeling like you're in a relationship that just feels completely conflicted, and also maybe even loveless. And all of that is absolutely playing out into the wider world. We are seeing so much kind of rift, conflict, dispute, turmoil. Okay, turmoil. So importantly, a theme that runs alongside that is the importance of protecting and nurturing your energy, because the collective is absolutely freaking discharging right now. So we've got all this discharge, energetically, psychic discharge moving into the world. And if you're sensitive, which all of you listening, you blinking well are, you are going to be feeling that collective discharge. Okay, you're going to be feeling that collective discharge. So it is really important to protect and nurture our energy, and also place loving boundaries. And I'm just wondering, what practice you use to protect your energy. And over the last decade, people have said to me, "Oh, what do you do for psychic protection?" And I've often said, your attitude is your greatest form of protection. But I'm also very aware, in the last probably couple of years, moving through the career of what we have moved through in the last 4 years, that and that is all of what happened in 2020, even this cost of living. It's like there's so much kind of rupture, that the world has become so noisy. And the other thing is, we've got things happening and moving so fast that are always pulling upon our energy and time and attention, that practice of protecting and nurturing our energy is absolutely at the core and so essential. Okay, it's not just needed and required, it is essential to be able to move through these times, staying whole as much as possible and intact. that I have woven in very, very, very kind of powerful practices, some of which is working with the herbs that fortify, that nourish, nurture, and one being the milky oats. Okay, one being the milky oats. If you're interested more about that, I will put, those of you who are watching this on YouTube, I will put a link to one of my medicine teachers. She is sharing the really profound teachings around the milky oats, and she actually says she believes everybody right now should be using them. So I will share that, a link there within YouTube. Those of you who are watching this on Instagram, I will pop a link into the profile. And the other is, I had a really, really good friend spend some time with me over these last few days, over the bank holiday weekend, and there we were sitting on May Day, monsoon rains, with a wonderful neighbour of ours, and we were sitting there cooling in the May and watching the May Queen, or hearing her arrive at the Mayfair, and there she was, crowned in amongst all this monsoon rain. But it was incredible. But he actually said to me, he looked over at one of my crystals, which is the Merkaba, and said, you know, hey Shane, that is not an ornament, that is a medicine tool. And then I gently thought about that, and we done some work with it. And another one of the crystals that sits there on the table, that at times I do hand to people that come and sit with me, or my friends that are sitting around the table and we're sharing and talking, and I'll say to them, just pick that up for a while, which is the Shiva Lingam. So I've kind of been working with both of these, and with the Shiva Lingam, it's really heavy. There's always this sense of flow and water with the Shiva Lingam, and it's really solid. It's really like anchoring, and I can just feel this energy just kind of being drawn away, you know, so any heavy energy that's sticking, drawn away. So I start my mornings with a simple practice now of working with the Shiva Lingam, and once I feel that that has just drawn it away, I'm going to feel it pulling it out of my body, and then I do some cleansing breaths, and I work with the Merkaba, which he said is a portal. And I do, when I hold that now, I can see this path working into an inner landscape, there being guided into a space I know on the outer world, a labyrinth, and a very important place for me, that is very tied into my ancestry. And I can feel those unseen, known and unknown teachers. And there in the centre I feel Freya, who I've worked with for many years. And then across from that I see this roundhouse. I see Bridget standing there in the threshold, the doorway, welcoming me in as I move out of that labyrinth. As I stand in the centre of that labyrinth, I often feel Freya now very gently passing me a red rose, kiss me on the forehead, and I very gently move out of the labyrinth very slowly towards the roundhouse, and this feeling of being welcomed into the roundhouse, a sanctuary space, a place of home, stillness, and then sitting there by her half side, sharing teachings. And you know, those things are all about protecting those path workings and meditations, all about nurturing and coming back to self. So protect and nurture your energy. The collective is discharging, loving boundaries, you know. During that time, switch off all the phones. You know, if you haven't got a Shiva Lingam, maybe you've got a tiger's eye. Maybe you've got a tiger's eye or carnelian. you know, that is very grounding. And then maybe you've got some rose quartz. This is rose quartz Merkaba. You know, so my dear friend was right. These are not just ornaments. They are medicine tools. All right. Then moves on to the next theme that really feels really important, which is stillness. Okay, stillness is essential in the world that we live in, because the world we live in is moving so fast. You know, and for me, I consciously do hold a space around me that is still. Often when I'm with people or sit with people, they will go, because I consciously, intentionally create stillness around me. You know, that is an important part of the work that I root into this world. Okay, so stillness. Retreat, I've mentioned that in amongst this conversation. Pilgrimages will feel really, really, really kind of, I feel that moving. Kind of reminds me of what has been birthed with my work with the innate, the divine and spirit, of the storytelling walks. These are mini pilgrimages across the land, and we're going to start those storytelling walks with an intention. And we're going to move across the dream lines, the song lines, the landscape, in a place of receiving its wisdom. You know, what is showing up? What do we notice? You know, what's that feather we pick up? Oh, that's an owl feather. Okay, what does that medicine hold? You know, these are intentionalized pilgrimages. It's funny because I was listening to a really beautiful podcast over the last few days that was talking about retreat in these times and days, and it was sharing Vipassana meditation. Now, around about 25 years ago, some of you may know of one of the most wonderful teachers that I've had. I've had very few physical teachers, but those that I have had have been very powerful. And often they have literally falling out of the sky. You know, there's been a collision in the most magical way, worlds colliding, and they've come into my life. With Ivan, he suggested that we done Vipassana meditation. And Vipassana meditation is a 10-day retreat, silent meditation, 10 hours of meditation each day. And I kind of, you know, for me, I felt that I had a calling to walk across the land, you know, and I did, you know, back then, 25, 26 years ago, walking across the land. I took pilgrimage across the Scottish mountains, the Cairngorm and the Grampian Mountains, and that actually felt softer. And I think we live in a time where there is so much intensity that there are softer ways to access that stillness, that retreat and that pilgrimage. You know, I think the concept for me personally, sitting there now for 10 hours in silence and having to drive that meditation, feels quite harsh for the times that we live in. Whereas walking the landscape and immersing ourselves into a space that holds us and nourishes and supports us feels a gentler way. And that is what that podcast was about. And funny enough, retreat, that was a podcast that was talking about another podcast called Retreat that the Financial Times hosted. So interesting, especially coming from them. I find that fascinating. So with that said, you know, you may be feeling days of extreme fatigue, like you're just feeling like you're really exhausted. You know, in a way, you know, if you've got this surge moving through you, collectively we've got this surge moving through us, there's so much energy being discharged. we're losing at some level some density. Okay, so everything's becoming lighter, and we're going through an intense realignment. Okay, not said lightly, which, if everything is moving in that way, we need to work with grounding. Okay, grounding being really, really important. And I think that we want to be very gently maybe considering looking at starting our day grounding, ending our day grounding. Yeah, and there's so many ways we can do that: going for a walk, sitting there consciously, feeling our feet upon the ground, taking off our shoes. You know, we're insulated from the land in so many ways. We want to be connecting to that earth, to that ground. Okay, so grounding being really important, especially in these times, and this is what this wonderful medicine tool does for me, as well as my time out there on the land. The other thing that's moving is continuation of our actions need to align with our values. Input and output feels like it's a theme that's moving very powerfully. You may be feeling like as if you just feel like you don't feel like doing anything. You know, we are collectively moving at times into a rest period. You know, so when we feel that deep exhaustion, we're being called to rest. We've lost the ability to be. We are rebooting, and our body knows what it needs. Okay, and so much is being discharged, those flares that we were talking about earlier on. So our body knows what it needs. You know, and the thing is, if we're kind of moving and we are shifting to a higher vibration, we are then moving into more of an awareness of being rather than doing. So we've got this sense of shifting away from wanting to drive everything so hard and fast. We're moving from doing and driving and making things happen from that place into almost that feels like it's becoming obsolete. We're moving into being. Those new energies are, you know, more gentler, more nourishing. They're divine. They are feminine. They're about receiving, creating, self-care and nurture. Very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. Okay. You know, you absolutely cannot do certain things that you've done. You just can't do certain things anymore. So much is being outgrown right now. So when you try to do your usual routines and activities, it just feels out of alignment. You are evolving beyond what you used to be. You may be feeling another theme that plans suddenly change in midstream. Plans suddenly change in midstream and you go into a completely different direction. Your soul is balancing out your energy. It usually feels great. You know, it's like this sense of what felt great doesn't feel great anymore. Then you get this sense of shift and you feel like gravity. You know, you feel like gravity. Your soul knows more than you do, and it's breaking your rut, new choices and vibration. And with that comes a sudden disappearance of friends, contacts, connections, continued shifts within friendships. You're evolving beyond what you used to be, and these people and surroundings no longer match your vibration. The new will soon arrive and feel so much better. Okay, so there we are. Let's turn some cards and gently weave this to a close. Let's pull a card as a let's pull a card which is illuminating the shadow where the healing's required, and we can also pull a guide for this time. Okay, let's pull that. So where the shadows near healing, oh perfect, and the guide, oh very 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 powerful. Right, so the shadow is destiny. I think this is all about asking those really really powerful and important questions. Who am I? What am I? What am I doing? Am I living intentionally? Okay, destiny. Because I do believe the oldest of us are amongst us, and we're here for good reason. Our spirit often say, we're not here to fear these times, we're here to shape them. So how are you shaping these times? How are you moving through life? What is your calling? What is your destiny? We've got to be asking the right questions. As a dear friend of mine says, it's all about asking those questions that are not always seen, are not always asked. We've got to be asking bigger and greater questions. Okay, this is the shadow. That makes complete sense to me. The guide is oak. Beautiful. Think about all of what we said. Love this. And this is an that's a nudge for me actually. Been thinking about, because I work with runes, I've been thinking about just since the weekend, more so around about the This is the oak. It's doorway. Doorway. Dur was its name in the Celtic tongue, and it means doorway. It is also strength, isn't it? You know, you kind of think about that acorn. From a tiny acorn grows a large oak tree. It's strength, it's rooting, it's grounding, all those things that we were talking about. And it's also a journey. The oak trees are portals. On our storytelling walk for midsummer, which happens to be on a full moon as well, come and join us. I will put links in the video description as well, but come and join us. We are holding the main story underneath the canopy of this huge giant oak that sits in a hedgeway, that is a doorway, right? A doorway. So I'm almost encouraging you guys, go and find an oak tree out there in the world. Let that become your sanctuary. Let that become that stillness, like me with that roundhouse. Let it become that sanctuary space. Amazing tarot insight and energy update. I will put all the relevant links and resources in there. I'm going to make a note of them now, and then I will get this uploaded to you. So this is energy insight, tarot insight and energy update for May into June. As always, it is a heartfelt pleasure. I'd love to know how this all speaks to you, where you are in the world, where you are listening to this, so where you are in the world and how this is speaking to you, how it lands within your life. So as always, keep shining and sending you all so much love.